Thank you, Mr. Chair and Vice Chair, and thank you all for being here. We appreciate your leadership and I know unwavering commitment not only to our soldiers but also, and as importantly, their families. I understand the Coyote unmanned aircraft system was developed as a joint urgent operational need which allowed for rapid acquisition. This resulted in some steps of the standard process being abbreviated. For example, the total Army munitions requirement for the Coyote missile is still being determined. Without this, it is hard for the Army or industry to forecast accordingly and know what to expect in future budget and contracts. Secretary Wormuth, what is the Army doing to finalize this documentation so that the Army and industry can use it as the basis for Coyote's long-term planning and investment?
Thank you, Senator. We have been relooking our total minimum requirements for munitions and for things like the Coyote interceptor. And I think there's a general recognition that given what we're seeing in Ukraine, that we need to increase our stockpiles of munitions and counter-UAS capabilities. So we are working on that right now. I think General George and I both believe that we need to invest more in counter-UAS capabilities, which is why you see some of that on his unfunded priority list. But given that the chief sets requirements, why don't I let him speak to that in particular?
Thank you.
Yeah, the Coyote is a perfect example of where we need to head. It's been, you know, we've sent users, developers, testers forward. We've made it, as the battlefield has changed, we've made, you know, adjustments. We were looking to actually acquire more Coyotes. Some of the problem was we couldn't increase production because of the continuing resolution and some of those changes. This is one area, Senator, where I think flexible funding, and I know sometimes that can be a bad word, but within counter-UAS, UAS, and EW portfolios would really help us. The battlefield is changing very, very rapidly, you know, and I'm talking days and weeks. Sometimes you're lucky to get, you know, things changing in a month. But as it changes, we need to be able to, you know, go back to, you know, we have the best industry in the world, to go back and say, hey, we need to change this, we need to up the quantity. Coyote was one of those examples. And that would also help us, you know, if there is continuing resolutions, that if we had that built in, that we could make those adjustments. And that's what we were faced with last fall, and it was tough to make those adjustments in stride.
Very good. The Defense Industrial Base in Camden, Arkansas remains at the forefront of critical munitions production for our national defense. We anticipate multi-year procurement authority will improve production rates in the long term and send a much-needed demand signal to our industry partners. Your joint statement also highlights the need for further investments in order to ensure that the nation can scale the production of critical munitions and systems to meet current and future operations. Secretary Wormuth, General George, can you speak to what these investments should entail? And again, does the budget that's being proposed, does it meet the Army's demand for munitions?
Thank you, Senator. This budget has over $3 billion in it for munitions because, again, I think there's a recognition that we have to build up our stockpiles. So that includes money for Gimlers, PAC-3, which we've got the multi-year authority for, Javelins, 155 millimeter, you name it. And in addition to the $3 billion for the munitions themselves, the budget also includes $1 billion for investing in the Army's own organic industrial base, so that the various depots, arsenals, and ammo plants can be more capable of producing, you know, faster and in larger capacities. So I think we're really trying to get after it in this budget in that area.
Thank you, Madam Chair.